Well, hello again. Jeremy and Wendy here discussing Adventures in Fishing for Men. This is Chapter 2, the video for Chapter 2 anyway. So we are going to sort of tell you about some of what happens in the chapter. Hopefully you've already read the chapter for yourself and then point out some of what the chapter represents. So the chapter is titled My First Day on the Water. And if you maybe remember from the previous video, the man wanted to become a fisherman, so he went out and bought everything that he needed for fishing, including a big expensive boat. And then he was fishing when his neighbor came out and pointed out to him that he's not going to catch any fish while his boat is in his driveway. He says, you need to put your boat in the water if you're going to catch any fish. So in chapter 2, he actually does put his boat in the water. And he's out there fishing. And immediately he thinks that he is the world's greatest fisherman. In fact, he thinks he's so good he could give lessons on fishing. He could start a fishing club. This is all foreshadowing for some of the things that actually do happen later in the book. But Wendy, we'll just stop right here with this initial scene. What do you think about this initial scene where he's trying to fish and he thinks he's so good at it?
He's very interesting. He needs to get out of the box. Actually, I guess he took it out of the box, didn't he? Took the pool out of the box. But, yeah, he needs to just think a little bit. He should have read some of those magazines that he bought.
He probably should have actually read some of those magazines that he bought. And in fact, that's actually what the neighbor mentions when he shows up. The neighbor shows up pretty quickly in this chapter. And of course, the man shows his judgmental nature again. He is annoyed that here he is trying to enjoy his day fishing on the water, and his neighbor comes out and interrupts him. Judgmental, arrogant, hypercritical. In fact, we see the criticism come out as well also. He mentions that he got his boat in the water, and we see immediately right here, where did he put his boat?
In the pool.
In the pool. And that's the picture that they're right there on the front. We see it right here in chapter 2.
That would be funny.
He bought the boat, and man said, you got to put it in the water. So what does he do? He puts it in the water, in a swimming pool. And immediately when his neighbor points this out, the man gets critical and judgmental again. And
he's probably more confused than anything.
Or maybe a little bit confused, right? Because he's just doing what he thought his neighbor told him to do. Yeah, that's a good point. Probably just more confused. In fact, he even tries to defend himself.
Because he doesn't know.
Yeah, he's like, I'm confused. Yesterday you said I need to put it in the water. I put it in the water. Now you say I shouldn't. What's happening here? And I don't know. Does that represent Christians at all? The way we try to evangelize sometimes?
By not knowing anything?
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know. I think we actually overknow stuff. We try and, put flyers out. We try and do surveys, questionnaires in order to try and get to know. But I think we're trying to show that we know more than we actually do. So that's the magazines, in a sense. He's displaying those, which how many Christians have books all over their tables? Not Jeremy, not at all. But he actually reads his.
Some of them.
Well, we do. We have this book and that book because your pastor tells you to read this. So, yeah, the magazines are probably more a thing. But you don't ever read them, so you think you know what's actually in them, and you act like you think you know what's in them, when in reality you don't know what's in them at all.
Yeah. A lot of people maybe don't even recognize the symbolism of the pool, but I actually chose that image on purpose because I think it actually does a pretty good job representing how many Christians actually try to evangelize. So, in fact, I had someone email me asking me if the pool represented something, and it does, in fact. It represents what, Wendy?
The church.
The church, okay?
We can't get out of the church.
Yeah, if you think of how most Christians and even most churches try to evangelize, they do it in church.
Or the parking lot.
Or the parking lot, okay. Maybe they'll venture out to the parking lot. And then what they do, which we'll see in a future chapter, is they try to get the non-Christians to come into the church where they will then teach them the gospel or present the gospel to them. And so I think that's the next chapter, maybe chapter 4. Yeah, chapter 3 we do that. In fact, he sort of tries to do this throughout the rest of the book, which is because that's what Christians often try to do too. Rather than go out to where the non-Christians are, we set up our pool, our big, expensive, fancy stained glass pool with the steeple, and then we try to invite all of the fish, all of the non-Christians in, and then we fish for them there. Actually, we don't even fish for them there.
No, we don't even fish for them. We ask them to jump into our boat.
Well, right, jump into our boat, or sometimes we might say, you just listen to the pastor. He'll tell you what you need to do. So he'll be the one who does the evangelism. Yeah. Anyway, that's the symbolism there about him putting his boat in the pool, and that's why it's a very, very central image to the rest of the book, which is why it's on the cover. All right, and let's see. Now, something else happens. He's having a discussion with his neighbor, and he gets a little, well, he brings up his neighbor's wife. Somehow he knows that his neighbor's marriage is struggling, and he brings it up in a conversation. And then, he recognizes that his neighbor is getting upset about it. And he says, well, sometimes people just need to be told the truth. And besides, I said it with love. You can say these things when you say it with love.
Yeah.
No?
That's a lie. That's a flat out lie. I think that's the whole point of evangelism, in that people evangelize. When they evangelize, like this guy's evangelizing, he's not evangelizing in love at all, or out of love at all. He's evangelizing to put a notch on his belt, to tell his pastor that he did it, to work his way to heaven, to make himself feel better than his neighbor who got somebody else. I mean, there's a million reasons why we think we're evangelizing when we're doing what this guy's doing, but the truth of the matter is that truth and love, is a lie, is an absolute joke. Because the only way you can tell somebody that you think that something in their life is not what it should be is if you have a relationship with them. And a real relationship comes from time and care and love and consideration and compassion that does not happen in even a week or a month, maybe. So, yeah, that's the biggest thing of lies. Or biggest lie of evangelism is that you can tell somebody something harsh and say that, I'm just telling you so that your soul is saved. No, you're not. You're smacking them in the face, and you can't do that, because then you've lost that person. And you've done more harm than good.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really important point. Lots of people think they're speaking the truth in love, but really they're just saying mean things and then trying to justify, well, it's true. Right. And Wendy's point, I think, is really, really key for going forward, which the man never learns.
Not in book 1, anyways.
Is if you don't have love, a loving friendship or relationship with a person, then you are not in a position to try to correct them or save their soul, or
you're not in a position to show them Christ, which is what the point of evangelism ultimately should be.
Yeah. And
if you're not loving, then you're not displaying Christ, and then you completely miss the mark.
So again, it all comes back to what should we be focusing on? Love. Okay? Loving others. Kindness and generosity, and even a smile.
And not having to tell them about God in the first 10 meetings.
Yeah. Yeah.
They should see it.
Yeah. They
should see it in your life before they know it.
Yeah.
And not see it because of a cross around your neck or a bumper sticker.
Yeah. So the man points out, his neighbor points out at the end of the chapter, that he's not going to catch any fish in his pool either, because his pool has no fish. So that sort of sets up the next chapter. He decides to take action and correct this situation, which is exactly what we Christians sometimes do when we try to evangelize, because we're not catching any fish. Why would that be? And we'll look at that in chapter 3. Look, 10 minutes again. We're on a roll here.
So. At least we're consistent.
Yeah. So I said 5 to 7. It looks like we're probably going to be closer to 10 in each chapter.
10's good.
10 is good. All right. See you in the next video.